Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to Tech Talk in KROOM. My name is Patrick Ding and I'm your host for tonight's session. With me in the studio is my good friend, Mr. Vijay.
Hello,
Vijay
everyone.
is
Hi.
the CEO of Vipa Malaysia and he is our moderator for tonight's session and he will take over the session after I introduce everybody. Also joining us tonight is our main speaker, Dr. Ahmad Moradi. Ahmad Moradi is joining us live from Florida, USA. Welcome, Dr. Moradi.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with everyone. Thank you for joining our program and our show. Back to you.
Dr. Moradi will be sharing with us the new method of advertising in KROOM tonight. And we will be discovering KROOM with KPI made for advertisers. So KPI stands for keep people informed, keep people inspired, keep people involved, keep people interested. So Vijay,
Yes.
you may start.
Oh, thank you very much, Patrick. Everyone, good evening to all the time zones. Thank you very much, Patrick, again. And last week we had our show with ABU Technology, and that was a very good subject. And today here we welcome everyone again to listen to us and to learn more about how discover KROOM with KPI made for advertisers. It's a subject meant for advertisers, whereby now you can KPI literally means keep people informed, keep people involved, keep people inspired, and keep people interested. So Dr. Moradi is going to take us through a journey in real-time advertising and ad view guarantee. Over to you, Dr. Moradi.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being here. And thank you for the continuation of educating the market. Going back a few years ago, I like to give a little memory lane and a little story behind it. Then we can get to the presentation and move forward. But more importantly, one of the things that has happened, if you look around on internet and you look at two of the key players in the market and advertising, that they have pretty much taken over the publishers market or the media market or online market, that is Google and Facebook. And over the last decades or so, they have misused their algorithms, their methodologies through CPM, through CPT, through different methodologies that advertisers buy, and connected to a protocol that it was called cookies. And then basically the advertisers are ending up with the short end of the stick, and those publishers that they have been marketing themselves and working in collaboration with all of these ad engines or advertising service providers have become the beneficiary of those. So therefore, advertising has been compromised. We looked at this from a research and a study point of view first. So what I did is I wanted to give you a little background on that. So I'm going to go before to the presentation, give you some highlights and talk about one of the things that we did back in the early days. We started with building a promo advertising, because promotional advertising was extremely important to look at the areas where obviously print advertisers create a great benefit from it by placing ad in print medias, driving the traffic and creating. But objectively, every advertiser, I'm working for decades with many major brands and advertising agencies around the globe. One of the things that we learned is advertisers are willing to spend the money as long as they get a return from their investment. That was fundamentally one of the areas that we felt is we got to look at it as a point of respect. The other side of it was that we had to look at it from the standpoint of how this KPI is going to equate into sales. Because if you don't have sales and you're just spending money for advertising, then really it's just throwing money. And that's one of the reasons there are two groups of people who believe in advertising and people who don't. People who don't believe in advertising, they think that they should keep their money and they don't want to spend and create exposures. And then the other side of the paradox, people that spend massive amount of advertising with their budget to capture your attention. So this is from the advertisers. Then there is another side that you look at it from standpoint of going forward, is the area of what we call introduction. I would be more than happy to post this for you, but one of the things that we decided to do is analytically look at cost per 1,000 impression. That's how the advertisers sell, cost per 1,000 impressions, disadvantages, and then look at CPT and CPM and some of these. So I want to talk to you about what we call CPT, okay, interactive cost per time. So one of the things that we looked at it is the buy side of this social ad. And like I said, I would be more than happy to send you this as a part of inclusion once you request from us. More importantly, I filed a provisional patent back in 2013 about this subject because we felt that it's a very valuable investment into KROOM, where we have to bring the readers to watch and meet. So KROOM is a destination that we have created based on the foundation called Data Clean Room. A data clean room is designed by Interactive Advertising Bureau as a foundation to allow advertisers to bring their content in a secure, private environment, respecting their customers, their brands, and bring in that continuity without the noise. So when we essentially looked at the behavior of the consumer, let's look at me as an example, or one of you that you always be a consumer because you have consumable products that you purchase, right? So if you take that into a consideration, what does it happen is we all, regardless of where we live and what we do, God has granted us a unit of measure called 24 hours. In other words, Mr. Patrick doesn't get exclusivity from God for 36 hours and Mr. VJ gets 18. Everybody has a universal code of 24 hours. In this 24 hours, we have engagement, right? We don't pay attention all the time to the advertisers. We don't pay attention all the time to the content or looking at our print or so forth. We selectively choose the time that we want to spend with those, but then intrusively, advertisers put information in front of us to take away what we have called time. Whether I'm looking at the billboard or I'm looking at an advertising or I'm watching a video that I'm forced to look at the first commercial before I watch the video, they are taking my eyeballs, they are taking my time in order for me to compensate for their benefit because I have agreed to share my data. This paradox is changing dramatically in the new world of advertising, where privacy and security and data clean room has become paramount in the next digital economy, in the Web 3.0, in the expansion of the new fourth industrial revolution that we are going forward. So with that in mind, one of the things that we wanted to look at it is how do we help our brands, our customers to come in here? And I want to refresh some of our memory that what is a data clean room from the advertisers? It's a claim that provides a privacy, safe environment for marketeers and their partners to share sensitive enterprise data for cross-publisher measurement and targeting and deeper customer insight. There is one thing that everybody talks about, from ad agencies to the consumer, from the print that you do to all the way to call to action that you create. And that is called customer experience. Customer experience has become paramount in product service differentiation. So one of the areas that we look at it is how do we create that sacred environment with no download, no app, no install, allowing you to get into a session or to a viewing that you as a brand can ultimately become that brand ambassador. We all have preferences as consumers. So when we go into a grocery shop, as an example, and we walk with our cart in the mall, what do? We start filtering the things that we don't want to see, and we start scanning with our own eyes to pay attention to the items that we want to select, right? These are called selective behavior because you have been trained psychologically. And then there are advertisers that they have put a little jingle in your brain or a little advertising that the moment you walk in and you say, oh, and that moment becomes the audio or the sound that they have placed in your brain. And now you make that selective decision. This has become the pattern that has happened from 50s from what we call Mad Men, Madison Avenue advertising, that has manifested itself to this global presentation. So one of the areas that we want to look at it is the clean room that we are talking about has to have certain criteria that allows you to get your users from mobile, from laptop, from your customer relation management, CRM, from your e-commerce, from data warehouses that you have collected the data, to bring what is relevant to the brands and advertisers, their own messaging, the engagement, the trust that they have to build, and the time inside. Okay, what does it interest their customers? So with that kind of a concept, one of the things that we decided to do is showcase the presentation that I'm about to share with you. So under this presentation, our objective is to create an honest advertising, first of all. And the honest advertising comes up based on 3 variables that it was important in our studies. For example, in this room that we are broadcasting, 1898, we have eyeballs, right? So eyeballs is one thing that we want to capture, guaranteed eyeball for our advertisers. The other thing that we want to capture for them is the time that they're spending inside the room for the brands. The more time they spend, the more obviously engagement, customer experience, that KPI that my 2 esteemed colleagues expressed earlier can come into manifestation. More importantly, when you go into the content that you provide based on your advertising, your agency, your theme, your campaign, then that becomes the population that you integrate inside this room. Example of this room right now that you see is a typical newsroom that is designed for Borneo Post, for K-media publishers, viewers, readers, but it's non-intrusive, as you notice. The content that it sits in here allows you to pay attention to the forefront content, but behind the scene, you can see Borneo Post, you can see on the sidebar the icons that you can click as a user and then select and read about it and know about it, while there are other things that you can do, such as shopping and so forth. So with that in mind, we're going to go look at some of these highlights of what ICPT, interactive cost per time, means. Time is measured by, obviously, unit of measure, right? The minutes, the seconds. So we don't want to cheat our clients or advertisers. We only want them to pay for that guaranteed eyeball, guaranteed content, and guaranteed time. These pillars creates the foundation for ICPT. So looking at the KROOM as a DCR, then the 3 variables that we bring for your brand is turning your customer into a brand loyalist. How do you do that? First of all, let's talk about that. In a KPI advertising that we have done in the past for some of our clients around the globe, where obviously we are using some of the abstract part of it because we always respect our clients' privacy. We don't share data unless without their permission. Then we selectively talk about it in an overview, so therefore you can get a general idea, is the KPI that we were sharing with you earlier to keep them informed and so forth is all about engagement. Under this engagement, for instance, it was a use case in Mexico where we had a challenge, for instance. Starbucks coffee had taken over nearly 100% of the market for coffee consumption. Nestle wanted to enter into the market, but they really didn't know how to do this. So they had hired an advertising agency to assist them with that. An advertising agency reached out to us, and we created this kind of experiences years ago to sell a coffee machine called Dolce Gusto. This was a basically individual coffee cup that you would put in there, right? You push your button, you get your espresso, you get your regular coffee, latte, any of those things that you want, right from the box. So one of the things that our goal was to help them out. So what we did is with every purchase that we created and the marketing, with the advertising, sending it to what they call their youth generation, because it was between age of 18 to 36 that we were going after the market for the conversion. Then those people were the ones that they were signing up, buying the units, and in the registration, when they would do it, they would receive a room. In this room, now they could introduce and bring their friends in. Their friends as a social referral became testimonial because it's a trust factor. And the trust factor is asking the host, like Mr. Vijay or Patrick, how did you get this room? And then they said, well, I went and bought a coffee machine and I got these orders and blah, blah. And they gave me this room. So I get my recipes, I get my ingredient, we get events and everything else. So then we increased in less than 6 months, we reached out to the 30% of market share in Mexico City against Starbucks. So you have to understand that there is always a 0.0, like we did with K Media, and starting building the traction. And this is the next generation of technologies. Another one that I can share with you is for children in a bubble gum. We were promoting bubble gum. We were building a campaign with the ad agencies. Remember, we always work with or through with the brand or the clients. And then the objective was to be able to bring that kind of experiences in here and create the user-generated content, create contests, and let the children enjoy without the intrusion and supervision of their parents, so to speak. This kind of area becomes very sensitive because when you're dealing with different age brackets, you have to bring the highest level of privacy and security and trust into the equation. Branded room builds loyalty with ad view. We have looked at Mad Men advertising. When you place an ad and you look at the content in here, with the 25x advertising, you create the branding. So we designed this room in that kind of a context that helps you to engrave the brand based on the trust and loyalty that you bring into the market inside these rooms. And then these rooms can become a real-time branded channel that it can connect to many other rooms. That's the general idea. So when you have one room that it acts as your channel, and then you're going forward with the steps of going into different room experiences. These room experiences can be decorated for different holiday seasons, for different events, and all of this can be done in real time. So there is no longer you need to go and notify your buyers or customers unless you send an email and it says introducing holiday season. Eid is arriving, Christmas is arriving, Valentine is arriving, and now you can bring that buyers and so forth into the equation. So with that, one of the things that we felt is important is creating a environment where the trust factor from the print publishing can transform itself into a KPI, and we can help the brands that they are already advertising in the print media to have an opportunity to build this hybrid environment that their print drives the traffic to the room. And that is called D2C, direct to consumers. A D2C allows you now to connect directly to your buyer 24/7 in real time. That is the perfect gift, because when you want to run a special, when you have inventory to push, when you have product to sell or service to offer, now you're connected directly to your buyer. So how did we behaviorally look at this kind of a condition? We said, well, there are a series of areas. These are some of the examples that we started, for example, with one of the brands that they were launching by a cosmetic group, Adesi, that their nail polish is fairly expensive. It's about $20, $30 compared to a general market of $1 or $2. So how do you create that distinction? How do you bring that brand in, that class, that variation? And this is exactly, for instance, what we did. But more importantly, what happens is when the advertisers connect directly to their buyers, the low-hanging fruit that we have learned is starting from your own customer base. Your customer base are already field proven, tested. So let's create an opportunity like we did for an auto dealer in Europe, that Mercedes, for instance, or BMW, where we send out to all of the buyers for the auto dealer a thank you note along with the introduction to the room. And the room became the auto dealer's showroom. It became the auto dealer's service department. It became the auto dealer's parts department. And therefore, they could meet in real time, get service, buy a new car, upgrade, make changes, especially during COVID, where we had a tremendous amount of closure due to COVID-19 for traffic. So the most important thing is also we looked at branded ambassadors. So our objective is if your customers love you, they become your brand ambassador. They talk about you because they care about you. And we have seen that more often than ever. Example is the Borneo Post, for instance. It's a trusted brand that every organization in that region highly respects them, provides the best and the level that it requires and it deserves because they have always been neutral. They have provided timely information to the audience and the audience have captured their confidence and their trust. So when you build that interactive branded room for the clients, you can connect it to a few things like loyalty points, gift cards, for example, and create areas where you can start managing that by minutes. Other examples are streaming, for example, streaming an event, whether that event is sponsored like we are doing or did for New York Fashion Week for a Japanese company that they wanted to introduce their line to the fashion market, okay, or versus that you're doing a streaming from a pizza shop that now all of a sudden you're showing how you're rotating your little dough and how you're cooking it and how the recipe come together. All of these kind of things becomes consumer, direct to consumer interaction based on your need, your campaign. Other things is that we have done in here for the KROOM to create the ability where there are certain restrictions where we had, for instance, also in United States and Europe. The products that we call them, they have jail bar. In other words, when you go to retail stores, for example, and if you buy a bottle of Hennessy in United States, they are in the cage. You have to call the operator, they have to open the cage, and then they have to give it to you. It is not something that you can pick up off the shelf because the rate of theft and so forth has increased the probability of loss. So therefore they cage those products. That's what called cage products. And those cage products can become a gateway for brands that they can bring themselves directly to the consumers. Example is tobacco, drinks that they are alcoholic and so forth, that they require age, authentication, verification, and so forth based on region. The other thing is, like an example that you see for Marriott in this case, was several years ago where we were driving traffic for Marriott Hotel to an event. Again, I'll just talk as an abstract with you. Result of that has become, we're getting a lot of awards over the past 2 decades. And that value is that we are bringing to KROOM to work with them, that they can maintain the data fabric in its integrity and its privacy. So therefore, the advertising does not become intrusive. So you decide as a consumer on this side of the equation, the brand becomes the service provider through KROOM that they connect to you. And that sanctity of relationship that stays between both brand and customer always stays the same. And the customer also has the option not to exercise that right. Okay, so therefore now you will know. That is one of the reasons data becomes extremely important to drive the traffic, to drive your online experiences, improve your KPI, if you will. So one of the areas that we are talking, and this is done by Gartner, interviewing many chief marketing officers around the globe and talking to them, and they all, over 70% of them are moving to our data clean rooms, technology and strategies, because they're all suffering from loss of revenue in their cookie or post-cookie syndrome and their search engine. So we felt it's important that we first educate our advertisers. Our advertisers create a DMC, a digital media channel, that this channel allows them to offer to their buyers a room. And through this channel now can be regionalized. Example of that is, let's say, for example, I own a Kentucky Fried Chicken. I use it as an example, or a Domino Pizza, a franchise, for instance, that I have purchased. And I want to increase my customer base. So every time my customer wants to buy, I want to give them a better ability, a better KPI engagement than just driving by or looking at my ad and so forth. So what do? I build a campaign and I say, buy a item, like a pizza, okay, with the drink, and receive the room. Once they receive the room, now you're directly connected to them. So from that point on, they can come virtually to your store. They can come and place an order without driving. They can come in here and look at the content, the recipes, the promotions, the coupons, all of these variables that you put in without third-party intrusion, because now you got them as a captured audience. And what are you looking for in advertising? Capturing their attention to your content so they can take a call to action and remember you at the time, what we call point of sale, to purchase an item. So KROOM, when we are bringing it together, now has another value called trust. When I introduce my room to a close friend, it's not like social media that I have tens of thousands of people connected to me and I never talk to them. In here, when I invite somebody, I trust them. With that trust, you build brand, because when the other person comes in and subliminally start looking at the content and the room and so forth, the statistics that we have learned, over 60% conversion rate had taken place in the past. So that's the good number in relationship of what we want to talk about in here. So we go to, sorry, I don't know what happened here. Okay. We come here to show you some of these highlights that we have done, but more importantly, get into the area where we feel it is relatively important. As we were sharing with you, the 76% of the advertisers are building data strategies. So without really getting you into any kind of a heavy duty expenses, investments into infrastructure and so forth, K-Media has taken the position to become a pioneer and a leader to introduce the technology to the advertisers, to the sponsors, more importantly, to their trusted readers and viewers that they have cherished the brand for many, many years. So in here, when we are talking about direct to consumers, the rooms can be experienced in different ways. Example of what you see in here is by esports. So if you have sponsorship or program, example of that is like Heineken. Heineken does a lot of concert sponsorships, for instance. And these rooms can become the streaming source. So now you can bring your viewers to these rooms. These rooms can be streaming, and streaming can provide the information that you're looking for. So we just look at things from a perspective of, or if you're wanting to go into areas like metaverse, a lot of our clients want to create what we call one dimension, which we call selfie, because we all always looking at our mobile devices or tablets or something like that called selfie. Or we have a colleague that we are collaborating with, or colleagues, right, or friends that they come inside, we call it together. And the third element is the metaverse, where we create a experience. These experiences also can be done by you, by your ad agencies, by your providers. And if you need help from us, then we can subsequently help you out collectively. But more importantly, it's designed to allow you to do one or multiple streaming like you see in here during the holiday season. But Tek Talk that you're watching right now is a part of this process that we inform, communicate, and educate. But more importantly, again, if you look at these rooms in here as an example that I'm highlighting, these boxes that you see, actually, these are your branded K rooms. These are the ones that they're designed that when you start featuring an event or selling a product or a service, everybody goes to their rooms inside these boxes and be able to get a personalized private experience. Now, what happens, KROOM in here that you see with series of pictures that it's been displayed as friends, what we call peer cast. The peer cast has the ability now to do what? To many. So in your, call it a franchise, you have set up the room as your channel. And now let's say you want to run a lunch special. So you send that invitation to everybody and you're going to say, hey, we're going to have a very nice lunch party in here. Join us virtually and come on over. Everybody can go to their own room and come and be a part of that experience. And they can invite their own friends. That is why we say K-Media is a place to read, to watch, and to meet. And then when it's populated exclusively with your product, with your brand as an advertiser, then that becomes a different experience. There are value-added services that you can also add as an option to the brand. For example, you can offer a room that is sponsored by you and a room that they can use for their work, for their business, for their meetings, for their own privacy. That privacy gives them a value-added branded loyalty because you are creating a venue for them that now they can use it for a variety of purposes besides just coming over and learning about the product and service. Other things that becomes really important that we can do is feature movies. For example, movie night. We will be sponsoring some programs. We're going to be bringing some European content, some US content, some sponsored content, some shows from Las Vegas, for example. All of this kind of activities that is going to be brought into KROOM. So your KROOM becomes your destination to get the first and exclusive information that you want to get from that brand. So in this case that we were just showing you earlier, example of that was again turning a room into a showroom during the holiday season. Other dealers are always having requirements to move their vehicle because otherwise their inventory gets stale. Cars are modeled, so every year you have to sell it, right? So they have a pressure point that they need to move vehicle. And this kind of a capability now allows them to bring their vehicles right in here and negotiate and discuss with the rep or the account manager and be able to get information from the sidebars, register, test drive, and do all of those things that needs to be done. Education. We are very fond of education. We are working with many schools, universities, and will continue doing that because we believe in youth and we believe in children that they have to learn using the technology to improve the human life and the way that things go without intrusion. But more importantly, we want to have fun, right? So a KROOM can become a watch party like you're seeing in here in the establishment that everybody is bringing the musicians, they are doing this, you see the studio, you see the laptops and all of these things that have been done. And obviously you see us as a part of the sponsor of this event. So in that kind of a context, what is important to us is looking at the overview of what we talk about in cost per time and giving you guys an ability to understand that CPM and so forth from the market that we have looked at it to the point that now KROOM has become a gateway. It becomes a very good viable way for us to showcase a Java room, for example. Let's take a look at this room is sponsored by a third party as a basis. So when I click in here and I get a notification and I come to this Java room, then the Java room gives me the ability to participate. Obviously, I will block my video and so forth in this transaction. But as I'm also doing a screen sharing, forgive me for a little latency that we are facing. But more importantly is the general idea that we want KROOM to offer the ability to provide sale, branding, loyalty based on your content. And that gives us the ability of serving you more effectively. You can have inside these KROOMs events, real-time projects, and streaming. And more importantly, you can connect that to your shops. You can connect it to your own broadcasting channels if you wish. And you can also connect it to what we call CDN services for content delivery network, reaching out to a larger size of audience. And then obviously our goal is to work with you and understand your needs and requirements and adjust the KPI and data clean room and KPI meeting your needs and requirements. And these are some of the goals and objectives that we have in mind that we wanted to share with you. But any other question, I'll be more than happy to answer. Other than that, I am kind of done with the presentation, and I'll be more than happy to provide output. Back to you, John.
Thank you very much, Dr. Murari. That was a very nice, enlightening presentation on the ICPT metrics measurement made for advertisers with AdView guarantee. The question time, I believe Mr. Patrick has got 2 questions,
Yes.
which he will post to you now. Over to you, Mr. Patrick.
Thank you, Doctor, for your insightful sharing this evening. Now, the first question for you, I want to ask, is cost of impression measurement in advertising still relevant today? You talk about the cost per time, honest advertising, guarantee eyeballs, time spent, guarantee content share, and so on. So, but we see today advertising still concentrated on cost per impression or
Right.
cost per click or cost per acquisition. So I think the metrics of advertising in KROOM is a little bit different than what advertising is today. Can you elaborate a bit further on that?
Sure. Impression is a general protocol that the advertisers in the early days, when they started creating like the search engines such as Google, they monetized it, if you recall. This has been happening for 25, 30 years now in the industry, and it has become a norm. But the norm, just like any changes that happens, has been misused, because how do you quantify impression, right? I can bring third parties or a artificial intelligence bot to create impression for you. That has happened many times, okay? And I charge you, but you really don't know how many you got, because my algorithms can work out and click impressions and create cost for you. And I normally charge you, let's say, because the way that the system has been designed, they lowball it with the $10 a day, $20 a day, $50 a day, things like that. And then they start taking your money, right? When you're doing that into hundreds of millions and, billions, then obviously numbers become staggering. However, they have taken advantage of that to build their enterprise, not yours. You're paying them for what? For impression that you're not getting a real, measurable, quantifiable return on your sales. Sales is what we call sales cures it all. That's the old saying, right? When you have sales, you don't have to worry about anything. Sales is the function of behavior of call to action. You take all of this marketing effort, promotional effort, and everything else with your impression and your clicks to drive. But there is a problem. When you arrive in a landing page, you don't see your ad exclusive. You see many other ads inclusive. And now I am a viewer. The first thing I do, I filter the ads in my eyes. Okay, I don't want to look at them because I don't have the time. But I'm paying, and you're paying for the impression. But I'm not looking at it, actually. This has become a paradox of cheating, misuse of CPM, CPC, and so forth, that they have created these methodologies. Advertisers, the companies that they spend massive amount of money, they have become aware of this expenditure. So they decide that rather than taking that kind of a measure and just throwing their money for the eyeball, we go with the standards that is called first-party data. For example, if I want to advertise to children who watch Disney Channel, what do? I use my K-media data as a first-party data. I help my brand to license second-party data like Disney. I connect the two together, and I give them a wider spectrum with the permission base that they can reach to the children that they're watching Disney in that geo IP. That is one of the reasons the publishers like MGM, Amazon themselves, Google themselves, Facebook, all of these entities are moving into first-party data because they have one goal and objective. They want to rent you their data. They want to sell you their data. Okay, this is one thing that they're doing. The other thing is that you have a limited database, no matter what size you are in. And your database called first-party data because you're keeping your data in your own environment under what is now known as Client Data Platform, CDP. So CDP is the holder of your first-party data, and with that you connect to second-party and third-party to create, and that is how connected TV is coming together, where we can now connect to Apple, for example, for advertising. We can connect to Vizio, or we can connect to Roku, or all of this in the network of what we call TV network, connected TV. In the online advertising, because the noise has become so much, and people that they are having a landing page that they're charging the advertisers have so many banners and ads and so forth, attention has been diminished. People are not paying attention to read even the advertiser's message. It's just blinking and it's going. In the room like this, you have none of those. You have no invasive or third party coming in here and taking away from you. You don't have that competitive force in a page that everybody is trying to compete for the impression, and the only guy who makes money is the guy who's charging you for those impressions. So that is the difference that has created the havoc in this vacancy, the vacuum that we now have between the old ways, the CPM, the CPC, and so forth, to the new ways that advertisers should pay for the time that the eyeballs is paid for. Okay, if you got to charge them 30 seconds, then that's guaranteed. And that's how actually YouTube increased their revenue into billions, Patrick, because what they did, as you recall years ago, YouTube, you could watch the content without any ad, right or wrong. Now what you do is the moment you click on it, they have ad insert, right? Right in the beginning, right in the middle, right in the end, because they got your eyeball. So that's how they're selling it. Well, if it's working for Google and YouTube, it certainly can work in a digital media room in the most secured environment, in a privacy-induced settings that is provided by the publisher to assure the client's sacred relationship is maintained with their consumers. Back to you.
I believe you have another question.
Yeah, the second question I wanted to ask you is that you talk about advertisers' performance, their sales performance in particular.
Right.
You talk about their ROI, return on investment. How
Right.
much revenue their advertising effort generate compared to the cost of the campaign of that particular advertisement. How does KROOM create a standard for the advertisers? If you have 3 person or 5 person in the room there, and how much the advertising is going to cost the advertisers? What kind of measurement? What kind of guarantee eyeballs? What kind of return on investment that the KROOM can guarantee the advertisers?
If you look at unit of measure per minute, okay, call it, or per minute, I think you can establish a very relative low number of maybe 0.009, okay, per minute. And that can give you a unit of measure per eyeball. So the way to do this is basically create an experience first, because everything starts with the customer journey, a theme, a plan. For instance, let's talk about holiday season coming for the Christmas, where we are right now catering to our customers in Europe and in United States, as an example, right? The subject of getting together in the holiday season is always dear to everyone, because not everybody can travel and go to their loved ones, right? So the theme together, if I'm a fellow florist and I'm selling flower, okay, and I want to sell it to my family and offer a flower, for example, then I can create the room with the flower and the setting and so forth. I can meet with my loved ones because I just send a bouquet of flower, for example, to my mother, as an example. Now I can meet and see my mother, I can talk to them, I can meet with the family members, where that experience can also be recorded and shared as a part of a user-generated content for the advertisers, that they can share the emotion. Our human factor comes from our emotion. We make impulsive decision in our buying behavior. When we like something, we buy it, right? When we don't like it, we don't buy it. A salesman can make us upset and we walk away from a product that we like. Has happened to all of us, right? So one of the area that we are trying to do is basically, when you talk about quantification, is suggestive building a platform with the user experience that we have a hybrid between print media and the user experience. And let this data speak for themselves with the customer experience and the customer's feedback. Okay, if the customers are coming for more, then obviously we are doing a wonderful thing. If we need to make adjustment, because everything in digital world for us is adjustable. We can make things happen that otherwise would be very expensive in print publications and press and so forth, where in here, in real time, we can make instant changes. Supposedly, let's say we are coming to a color of Christmas with red and green, and we want to decorate these rooms with the flowers and the Christmas ornaments and so forth and so on. Now, that's a theme, right? Get together, bring the family together. Example is, let's say, appliance company who wants to sell appliances. They can create a digital home in here and showcase their devices and have the person who is the, what we call influencer, come inside the room and let them explain about the product, the service, the features, the values that otherwise would not have been realized, or somebody had to sit down and read about it. The other thing that you can do, which is extremely valuable, what we call infomercials. In the old days of infomercials, we used to have designated time where we would promote the product in real time, okay, for online shopping. All of those are values that KROOM can bring to the equation. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Patrick, for the two lovely questions. Very insightful. Now we have got a question from the public, Dr. Moradi. And according to our broadcast team here, the question from one of the commenters, his name is Mr. Carl Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
And his question is, are users ready for this new tech?
Yes, because we have already tested out in different regions and market, in the sports market, in the merchandising market. Consumers don't want to be bothered so much with a flux of advertising unless they choose what they want to see. That's called filtering. So yes, to answer your question, we believe with the being an advocate of privacy and security, then when you purchase, let's say you own a car, right? Let's say you own a Honda. If Honda dealer is sending you an invitation, you trust the brand. You have done transactions with them. So you can clearly open the door and the room and receive information from them without intrusion, whether it's a change of oil, okay, or a service that they're calling you to come back for your recall. All of these things can become part of that interaction. That's why KPI becomes keeping people involved, informed, interested, right, and inspired. And you can't do that without that inclusion.
Thank you, Dr. Moradi. We have got another question from a user. Her name is Miss Jennifer Yu.
Mm-hmm.
She's asking, we need more info on this, which is easier to understand. Now, how would you address that?
We will have you to sign up. Okay, they will send you to the K Media and we will send you a white paper. We'll send you educational materials. We will set up a session with you. We will even help you to set up one of the rooms for your liking. So therefore you can use that as a use case with your constituent, and then you can multiply that into hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, millions as you decide.
Thank you, Dr. Moradi. There is no more questions. I think we closed the question time. We have taken much more time today, actually, interestingly, because we have had question, very insightful presentation document. I have got one question for the road, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this measurement that we are talking about in the room, the ad view guarantee, now how is that quantified in real time? Okay, how is that person who is in the room or the viewer who is viewing the brand, how are they engaged? An example, right now, both of us, three of us are here engaged, right, with that brand in K Media. So how does that work?
Well, just look at the room itself. By clicking on one of the icons, you move yourself on the sidebar, and you access to the background. For example, there is a double arrow, right? You click on the double arrow on the top, and now you reach to the content. Content becomes your point of contention and your interest and your objective, okay? Now, you don't become that particular person in here like we have in here. You're set aside, and now content becomes king, so to speak. So the objective of what you're talking about, how do you quantify or how do you do this, is called measuring usage, okay? The usage is really based upon the way that you create a campaign to inspire, and the inspiration comes from many ways. For instance, when we were doing a project in the state of Florida for the children, okay, during COVID, we had to build classrooms for the students, okay, but we had to subsidize it by the advertisers. So the students and the teachers that they were getting together for the classrooms, the rooms were powered by, sponsored by, and now you have the eyeball, you have new client acquisition, you have the subliminal advertising, and they're paying attention to that content. And that creates, again, the inclusion of what you're referring to. There are many use cases, but normally the way to do marketing called fill the need, right? Marketing 101.
Right,
Understand your customer. What is it that they want from you? If you don't know, then it's time to learn about your customers, okay? Your customers are directly or indirectly communicating with you, and that's what you advertise, okay? Now take that advertise and apply it into a real-time engagement, real-time communication, look at the usage, and then monetization comes into formation very rapidly for you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Moradi, and very nice, insightful presentation again into the world of advertising and the new measurement matrix, interactive cost per time made for advertisers, and the ad view guarantee. Over to you, Patrick, for the closing.
Thank you so much, Vijay, as a moderator, and also thank you to Dr. Moradi for your insightful discussion. So we are coming to the end of tonight's session of Tech Talk with KPI made for advertisers. Thank you to our audience. You have been wonderful for us. Thank you for joining us tonight. Remember to join our next session, which is on next Thursday, October 5th, same time, 8 p.m. And the topic will be on KROOM standard and premium customer experience. As usual, you can join our Tech Talk session by clicking on to our live stream video event link, or join from our Facebook live link. Meanwhile, if you have any questions at all, please do post it to our inquiry at KROOM.my, inquiry@KROOM.my, or you can go to our Facebook and post your question there. Until then, continue to stay informed, stay involved, stay interested, and be positive about KROOM and Tech Talk.
Cheers for now. Thank you for having us, everyone. Be safe and be well, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll
Cheers.
see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.